Uprising is here, and it's time to take Icelander out for a trip in Classic Constructed. Hi friends, welcome back to Nearly Sane Games. I'm Neil, and this is the Armory Report. This week's Armory, Classic Constructed. And this is my first tryout with Icelander. So first off, let's take a quick look and see what's in the deck.
All right, let's have a look at this deck. We're going to start out with taking a look at our hero, Icelander. She starts off with 36 life, which, I mean, she's a wizard, so it's going to be a little bit less. And she has Essence of Ice, so we can include ice cards, of course. And if it's not your turn, you may play blue non-attack action cards from your arsenal as though they were an instant. This is not limited to wizard cards. This is just non-attack action cards. So if you have a blue energy potion, you can play that from your arsenal. And whenever you play an ice card on an opponent's turn, create a frostbite token under their control. Again, this does not have to be from arsenal. This can be from hand, and we'll definitely do that with our blizzards. Now, our goal is to get a lot of frostbites, and these affect activated abilities and cards that are played. Most everything is subject to frostbite, except for triggered abilities. So they're putting a counter on their tunic is triggered. It comes from the start of their turn. Playing anything into Arcane Barrier is triggered. You get the opportunity to respond to that, and it's not subject to frostbite tax. But things like removing your counters from your tunic are subject to frostbite tax. So a little weird interaction. You need to pay one to remove your tunic counter to get rid of the frostbite, and then removing your tunic counter will gain you a resource. But you need to make sure you do it in that order. It's a little wonky. It sort of all works out the same, but you can't actually just remove your tunic counter to pay for a frostbite. What you may want to do is, when you're going to get a frostbite, remove your tunic counter right away, and then you get that resource without having to pay for that, if that's an option to you. Removing the tunic resource is not the same as it is for pitching. You don't have to have a target for that resource. Now the weapon is Waning Moon, and it's once per turn instant. Pay 2, deal 2 arcane damage to target hero. If it's not your turn, instead deal 3 arcane damage to them. Alright, here's the trick though. Activate this ability only if you've played a non-attack action this turn. That is very important, and we need to pay attention to that. It needs to be a non-attack action card. That does not include defense reactions. Those aren't action cards. Now, for the arm piece, I'm running Ironhide Gauntlet. And some people are saying, well, we run Conduit of Frostburn. We can pop it and destroy something in their arsenal if we've frozen it. And my experience with Icelander is that I'm not very good at freezing cards in their arsenal. And so I would rather have a little bit of extra block. And so that's why I'm running that. For the other equipment, we start off, we have Stormstriders, Classic Wizard equipment, Arcane Barrier 2, and we can pay 1 and destroy it and play something from our hand at instant speed. The Tunic, important getting that extra resource, also has a block 1. Don't forget that block 1 because that is important, especially in late game. This is more important than it is in Kano. Icelander is not a quick kill type hero. It's more setup and get things rolling. And once they get rolling, it can be kind of oppressive. The Cornet Peak. This is a nice little card that you can pitch 3 into and make them discard unless they pay 1, which is kind of a discard in itself. The difficulty with this is this does not have Go Again. This is not a non-attack action. You can't play Cornet Peak and then Waning Moon. So you would have to play a different action and then play this in order to Waning Moon. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just have your Channel Lake Frigid out and you need to have an outlet to pitch your blue ice card to keep it alive. And this can do that. It also has Blade Break Block 2. So it is kind of 75% of the Arcanite Skullcap. A pretty good piece of equipment. Now, Heart of Ice, I still keep in here for the Kano matchup. I still have the slot available, so I still run it. This is very oppressive in Kano, being able to activate it every turn and saying basically, are you going to go off now when I've got a full grip? Let me know. And the Alluvian Constellas. This is kind of a card for the arcane classes. I played this against the Viscerai, and it's kind of sort of okay. If you're going to be running Arcane Barrier anyway, you can use this, and if you've got 2 counters on it, you can remove them at instant speed and have one of your weapon attacks cost 3 less. So this is kind of, if I pay for Arcane Barrier now, I can basically get it back later. And for Waning Moon, it is a perfect 1-for-1. So I get 2 counters on this and remove them, and it basically gets me 2 resources back. That rate is pretty good, but you can only use it for your staff, and you have to have done whatever requirements are. You have to have played the non-attack action to use your staff anyway. So I'm not sure about this. There's a lot of cases where we're not heavily blocking arcane damage. So is this good in Briar? I don't know. But I did actually have it get 2 counters on it and was able to use it once in that matchup. So kind of like using the Tunic counters twice. All right, I'm actually going to start with my sideboard here. This deck is initially based on Bagel TCG's Icelander deck list, but I made some changes, some things I didn't necessarily like in his deck, but one of the first things that he has in his deck is this sideboard, and it's 3 Ice Eternals, 3 Channeled the Bleak Expanse, and 3 Hypothermias. And the idea is our main deck is 54 cards, and when you get ready to do your sideboarding, you choose 2 of these 3. And if doing the Frostbites are going to be more impactful, then you can use Ice Eternal. If revealing cards and drawing cards are important to your opponent, then Channel the Bleak Expanse comes in. And if cards gaining Go Again are in there, then it's Hypothermia. And basically you look at which one is the worst, and you take that one out and you put the other 2 in. So for Ninja, Hypothermia goes out because most of their cards have Go Again by default. So it's going to do less for you. Now, in my deck, I have ordered some cards, and they didn't quite get here in time. So I have 1 Channel the Bleak Expanse, and I put 2 Ice Bolts in the place. And I have 2 Hypothermias and 1 Ice Bolt in place. So I'm already starting off not very optimized, but I think that's probably okay. Here's some other things that went different from Bagel's list. First off, Scour. I think this is still good in the Runeblade match. This is still good in the Prism match. And I felt like this was missing from the sideboard in Bagel's list. Okay, so Again, in Bagel's list, he had the full set of Command & Conquers and Erase Face. Again, he's looking for the Prism matchups. Erase Face also has some good benefits to some other heroes. I only have 2 Erase Faces, so I threw in the Command & Conquer. It's again mostly hedging your bets against the Prism matchups with Poppers and the Illusionist in general with the Poppers. I don't know that the Poppers are the way to go in this. I think Icelander has other tools, and so I didn't go quite as hard into that. On the other hand, I do respect Dromai very much, and I decided to put 3 red Singes in there to take care of Ashwings if I ran across that. Also, if you're going to have a match that goes really long, having 1 Remembrance in there can be nice. All right, let's take a look at the main deck. Aether Ice Vein, 5 arcane damage, costs 3. This is kind of prohibitive because pitching a whole blue for that doesn't give you much opportunity to use Waning Moon. But you can Ice Fuse it. The Fuse effect is great if the arcane damage is going to get through, and with 5 arcane damage, it's probably going to get through. So that's going to probably lead to a discard as well. Excellent, excellent card. That's kind of an all-star for Icelander. It should be in every deck, I think. Freezing Point. Here's another 5 arcane for 3. The Fuse effect is not as good. This says you get an additional X damage, where X is the number of Frostbites, Ice Afflictions, and Frozen cards they control. You're just not going to have a lot of instances where that bonus is going to make a difference. But again, there's things that you can do with fusing cards that can be beneficial for you. So having the extra fuse on there is pretty good. In case, this is nice because this is a 0 cost with fuse. So we can do our fuse things with only 2 cards. And this does 3 arcane damage to any target. And if it does damage, then we freeze all equipment they control until the start of their next turn. 3 arcane is pretty easy to block, but forcing them to block it has its benefits, I think. Icebind. Here's another fuse card. Again, a 0 does 3 arcane damage, and if it was fused, freeze a card in their arsenal till their next turn. I didn't see this one in my matches, so I can't really say how good it can go. Again, it can pull a card from their hand, which is potentially good enough. What Nourishing Emptiness. If we're not running anything in our sideboard, we have no attack cards. So this is always 6 with Dominate. We only run 1. All right, Scalding Rain. So this was called for a different ice card, and I just figured that having the 1 cost with maximum arcane damage is going to be more beneficial than another 3 damage arcane fuse card. We're only running 2 of these. We have to offset our Nourishing Emptiness somehow. And I like this because we can throw 4 arcane damage and Waning Moon off of 1 blue. And that seems pretty good. Sigil of Permafrost. This has interesting text on it. It is, if it's fused, the next time you would deal arcane damage to a hero this turn, create that many Frostbite tokens under their control. Now, the thought here is that you send this out there, fuse it, and then you Waning Moon them for 3. Haha, got you. But it gets you, because you can't Waning Moon unless you have another attack action. And that attack action is going to be probably pretty weak and have some arcane damage. And if they are, and probably an ice card, so maybe it's ice with 1 arcane damage coming at them. And if they're smart, they'll take that arcane damage and be able to pay for the Frostbite. But you can Waning Moon in response to that and offer the 3 arcane damage, but this costs 1 for 4. I'm really considering switching this out for a Sink Below. Although this can work with Insidious Chill, and you do make them discard, and it can spiral out of control into something pretty gross. Speaking of Insidious Chill, this card, when I did see it, was very powerful. So it comes out with 3 counters on it, and when it has no counters on it, you destroy it. It costs 3, which is a little bit tough, but you run a lot of blues, so it'll be fine. And whenever you Ice Fuse, remove a Frost counter. If you do, target hero discards a card unless they pay 2. This is a great effect, especially if you're doing it on their turn. But even if you're doing it on your turn, it can be really punishing. And if you get multiple of them out, you're going to activate it multiple times for each fuse. It's pretty gross. This card is really, really an awesome card. I didn't know how this card would do, but you can strip somebody's hand and have a bunch of arcane damage coming at their face. Really great. Frost Hex. Now, Frost Hex, you put this under their control, and at the beginning of their end phase, it deals each Frostbite does 1 arcane damage to them. So if you can load up on Frostbites, Frost Hex can throw a bunch of damage at their face at the end of their turn. This is only good for those heroes that are really... You have to be really dedicated to giving people frostbites and giving them a lot of them, and that is hard to do. So a lot of times the frostbites are just gone by the end of their turn. I don't know. This also costs 3, but it blocks for 3. It kind of feels like a win more card. Still not sure about it. I haven't been able to really have this go crazy on me. Winter's Bite, I've seen this before. Discard unless you pay 1. It's nice on your turn if you have nothing to do. You can just throw this out there and make them discard a card. It's great on their turn. It's nice action, so they'll discard a card or they'll pay 1 and they'll have to get a Frostbite on top of that. Channel Lake Frigid. This guy is an all-star. Everything costs 1 more. When you play it on their turn, they also get a Frostbite. This does work and is amazing, and I love it. Blizzard does not block, but target attack loses and can't gain go again unless attacking hero pays 2. If you play this on their turn, they also get a Frostbite. So this is kind of a pay 3. Very good. I like this. Remember that you have to target an attack action. You cannot target a non-attack action. But because it's target attack. But a very good card. I like a lot. All right, now let's get into some a little bit more damage. Again, this is basically a Scalding Rain, except this is an ice action and deals 4 damage to any target. So you can target dragons with this. This is an excellent card to go with Waning Moon very well. And we also run the blues on here, blocks 3. Everything's pretty good about that. All right. Arctic Incarceration. So when I went over this card in my By the Numbers video, this scored very low. What's it doing in here? Well, there are people that have put in the Weather Vane in there, and that is pay 1, has go again, and it does nothing when it comes out. But, or is it Aether Ice Vein? I don't know. It's Arctic Weather Vane or something like that. And that will give 4 Frostbites if you fuse a card. And I don't like that as much. Giving 3 Frostbites for 0 gives me a lot more options than giving 4 Frostbites only if I fuse something. So I'd put this card in instead. It's still not a super card. If they're running any kind of blues, it just kind of steals a blue from their hand, which is okay. But maybe we put something else in here instead. I like the blues better because it gives 2 Frostbites on their turn. Can be more disruptive, and you can play from Arsenal. Cold Snap. Target pays 1, or we freeze a card in their arsenal. Well, I mean, just depends on what they got. And this one's decent because if it's played from arsenal, then you draw a card. So you kind of replace itself. It's kind of an okay card. Frosting, just 1 damage for 0. Not bad coming out from your arsenal, also coming with a Frostbite. Amulet of Ice. Again, combined with Insidious Chill, this is the same kind of effect. You can throw this out there, and when this pops off, you can basically strip their hand between this and the Insidious Chills. It doesn't block for anything, but it can give a Frostbite on their turn if played from there. So that is the deck. And let's see how the matches went.
And let's take a look at see how our rounds went. We went 3 rounds, and our first opponent was Viserai with Arcane Barrier 3. Now I think Viserai is one of the top tier decks right now, and so going into this, we're already in for a rough time. I get to go first. I start out with a blue Arctic Incarceration to give him a Frostbite, and Waning Moon him for 2. And then I arsenal an Arctic Incarceration for his turn. And I play that. I block 3. I take 3. I throw over an Ice Vein for 5 with a discard. I do an Aether Hail with and send over the moon. Frosting on his turn. Block. I managed to get a Scour into my arsenal, but I always have a little bit of difficulty with Viserai in deciding exactly when to fire off the Scour. And Viserai can build up a lot of rune chants very quickly, and then immediately fire off all those rune chants with an attack. And I have difficulty trying to decide when is the value point of hitting that Scour. And this Scour I only sent over for 2, popped 2 of his rune chants, and then he loaded up with another 6 rune chants, I believe, on that turn, and was able to throw a ton of damage at my face. I'd use the Sigil on one of his attacks. I had the Fuse, but the difficulty with Sigil is that you need another attack in order to Waning Moon, and I didn't have that attack. I couldn't Waning Moon. Didn't have another attack, so it wasn't my favorite. I send over a red Arctic Incarceration, give him 3 Frostbites, and I block his attack that he comes back with, but I was already dead. He was still at 18 life, and I was at 2. I never had control of the situation. He's sending over so much arcane and can do really a ton of damage with 2 cards, 3 cards. My card disruption wasn't getting there. It wasn't strong enough, and I'm not throwing over enough arcane damage to really make a difference. And he runs plenty of blues. He can pay for anything that I throw at him. So, not great. My round 2 was against Akatsu. Arcane Barrier 2. Here we go. I like to see the lower Arcane Barrier. But Ninja doing ninja things and throwing a massive amount of attacks at me. And I still haven't really gotten the hang of dealing with Ninja. Ninja on the draw turns, on the draw attacks, really need to overblock, expect the razor. I was overblocking a little bit, but still popping things over the top. Was an Ancestral Empowerment, giving it +1 to roll over the top of me, get the on hit, and do all the damages. And that I really paid for that. I believe there was one turn that he must have played 9 cards on me, and just have all this draw, and by the time it came to uh, block the next attack that had an on draw effect, I was out of cards to block with, so he was just kind of going freely and bashing my face. I did not see my Channel the Bleak Expanse, and didn't really get anything going there. So, going to the losers bracket for my third and final round, and I'm up against Azalea, who has Arcane Barrier 2. Turn 1, I had 3 reds in hand and an Insidious Chill. Now, this was also an issue when I was playing against the Ninja, Katsu. I had multiple turns in a row that I had 3 reds and a blue in hand. And it's not where you want to be. I run a lot of blues in my deck. I would like to have at least 2 blues per hand. So, this is not great. But this was turn 1, so I just play the Insidious Chill. I haven't actually played an Insidious Chill before, so not really sure how well it can go. And then on my next turn, I play an Encase with the Fuse. Remove an Insidious Chill counter. He discards a card. And things are looking pretty good. And I play a Channel the Bleak Expanse. And here's where things went weird. Channel the Bleak Expanse is out, and he plays a Ravenous Rabble. Channel Bleak Expanse says you can't reveal cards, so what we eventually decided was the Rabble comes in for 5. You can't reveal the card off the top of your deck, so you can't. You can't. So you can't get that effect. So, and it's not a additional cost to play the card. So Rabble comes in and smacks me for 5. He then throws another arrow at me. Might have been a Sleep Dart for 5, and I took that one as well. One of the nice things about Icelander is that a lot of the on-hit effects don't matter so much. Like, it's okay that my powers are turned off until the next turn, because my powers really only make a difference on your turn. So all of that's good. But I'm able to... So we've got the Channel the Bleak Expanse out, and I can't fuse anything. So my Insidious Chill is just kind of sitting there. So I throw something at him and don't pay for the channel effect and lose Channel Bleak Expanse. And send over an Arctic Incarceration, give him 3 Frostbites, and Arsenal Blue Frosting. He can't do anything. He's kind of a redline Azalea, and 3 Frostbites just shuts him down. So great. I don't fire over my Blue Frosting. I still want to hold that for the Frostbite effect on that. So he passes, and I play a second Insidious Chill. My first Insidious Chill has 2 counters on it. This one now has 3 counters on it. And he throws over an attack, and I'm holding 2 reds and a Nourishing Emptiness. So I take the hit and send over Nourishing Emptiness on his turn. He doesn't block it. 6 dominate, and I get an extra card. Sounds great. And so he sends over an attack. I pop my boots, and do a freezing point fused, makes him discard 2, and take 5 arcane damage. Really a great attack. I also got a Channel Lake Frigid out on him, and it just does so much work against it. Playing it on their turn, giving them a frostbite. I think I played it in response to a. He did a captain's call and gave the next attack go again, and then I fired off a Channel Lake Frigid, giving him a frostbite, making the next thing cost 2. He couldn't activate his tunic because it would have cost 2 to activate. He had 2 floating, and he was going to play a Enlightened Strike, but he couldn't because of the tax on that. So he ended up sending over a Scar for a Scar, which I just took. Then I was able to fire off an Aether Ice Vein, fusing it, giving 2 Insidious Chills and an additional hit from the Aether Ice Vein, and he was dead. So that was an interesting match, and that went very much the way that I wanted it to. Get a threat on the board early, and have that be an effect that was important. There were a few times in there in other matches when I was able to get out the Amulet of Ice and then fuse something and pop that to make them discard a card. Just in some decks, it doesn't matter as much. Again, Viscerai does so much damage that are you going to not block at all in order to try to get some disruption? And definitely the thing I found with the Katsu matchup was that I was either doing damage or doing disruption, but I wasn't really doing both. I didn't have the resources for both, or, well, again, I got a lot of very red hands in that, so maybe I just didn't have the resources for it, and I really wanted to get in that Waning Moon more often. And there were just times that I was just trying to stay afloat. And Ninja as well can still present a good bit of damage on a very few amount of cards. I think the Ninja Turtle version of that showed that there's still plenty of damage available for 2 cards when you have the defensive resources. So things aren't quite swimming the way I want them to. I think that it's going to be very important that you get something going right away. I think getting the Insidious Chill going right away was very good. I think I never saw a Frost Hex. At least not one that could do anything. I found one against Katsu, but Katsu is going to pay for whatever you put out there. You're not going to get Frostbites at the end of their turn unless you're specifically targeting that, and if you can mitigate damage, why would you work on that? So right now the deck feels still unbalanced, and I'm not sure where the balance needs to come from. Do we need to go back to having the fire breathings and the other pump card? Do we need those attack actions in there? I'm not sure right now, and I'm sure that there are people better than me that are brewing decks, and we'll see what they come up with, and we'll see where we can go with that. But I would like to try more with Icelander. Next week is Commoner, and I'd like to try to build an Icelander Commoner deck and kind of see exactly where that goes. And then we'll go to Blitz, which we'll do another Icelander Blitz deck and see how she upgrades with all of the new Uprising cards. And
And then we'll probably move on to some of the other Uprising heroes, and maybe next month we'll do Vi or Dromai and see how those decks play. But for right now, I found Classic Constructed Icelander is missing something. And it could be just the way I'm playing it. Maybe there needs to be much more focus on getting the card in Arsenal, making sure you always have a card in Arsenal, prioritizing that. Maybe the deck needs more blue cards in order to do that, and ensure that you're only using a very few amount of red cards for damage when it's necessary, but everything else is coming from Arsenal on their turn. And you're making sure that you hit your Waning Moons. I'm not sure, but we'll keep working on it, and we'll see what we can get out of it. So until next time, I'm Neil, and this has been the Armory Report.